I just emphasize to them, like, you have to have a vision as to what you're working for. Okay? I mean, it might not happen this year. Well, you're all sophomores playing varsity basketball. Keep that in mind, and then next year, they're going to have to drag us off the court. And if that doesn't work out, you still have another year. Like, focus on the big picture and not the moment. And
welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach of Emmaus High School, Steve Yoder. If you've read The Leftovers, you might recognize his name. Coach Yoder was my first coach and the main reason why my family and I moved from Pennsylvania to Texas before my freshman year in high school. In 15 years of head coaching, he has over 200 wins. But for Coach, it's way more about the relationships with his players. He's helped the Hornets qualify for districts 11 straight years, with 5 trips to the PIAA state tournament, including a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 appearance. Coach Yoder is the winningest coach in Emmaus High School history. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
Not much, Maddie. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm great, man. You look good.
Likewise.
Yeah. I think you could still hoop. You could still play.
I am so far beyond retirement. My kids drove me into retirement about probably 10 or 12 years ago. I got a year older every year, and the oldest they ever got was 18. It was just the gap was getting too wide.
Yeah. I figure I can still keep my credibility if I don't work out or play with them, or they may just think, man, I think he could play, but I never burst that bubble.
Yeah, there's enough stories out there of your play that you're good to go. So.
Thank you so much for your time in doing this. This is I don't know how much you know about the podcast, but I've just enjoyed talking with coaches over the years. And when I was working with PGC, got to my favorite part of directing those sessions would be the night cap with coaches, where we would just have a little round table and talk hoops. And during the pandemic, I thought, how can I do this more and just get to talk with more people? But this is so much more special for me.
And you have to thank me. I'm more than happy to do this. It's great to see you. It's great to talk with you, and I'm available anytime. So
yeah,
really, I should be thanking you.
No, for people that were at the Colony High School in the mid to late 90s, they might know you, Coach Yoder or Mr. Yoder back in the day. For people that are listening, my very first, what I would say as real coaching that I had, and I don't know if people around Texas know that I actually grew up in Pennsylvania, but you were my first real coach, and I think were one of the first guys to teach me and show me the love of the game. And then Coach Thomas, meeting him at camp down here before my freshman year was a big deal. And because he kind of sold me on the experience of what could happen down here. But the only reason I came to camp is because you were here. So thank you for being the catalyst for change and making me and my family, or helping me and my family, to move down here to Texas.
Well, we're blessed to have been a part of it. My wife and I were just talking about that last night in the hot tub a little bit, about the leap of faith that you and your parents took. It was pretty special, and how your lives are different because of it, hopefully for the better.
Definitely.
I'm just glad I didn't screw you up too much. I was a kid back then. I don't know much now. I certainly didn't know much then. That's for sure.
Well, here's the thing. What you did know is you knew about toughness, and you knew how to play defense. You knew how to coach defense, which early on, I think those were the 2 areas of my game that were really missing. I offensively, I could do some things with my ball handling and shooting, but I definitely wasn't tough. And Kill 31 is one of the games that I still teach my guys to this day. And I use you an example of, here is a young adult, a young man, just beating on a young kid, but helping him to get tough. And I love that game, Kill 31.
Oh, they probably had me arrested today. All the
That's
fouls
right.
delivered on you. You were so gifted and skilled offensively. You know, it, I felt that part of it was going to be a fairly easy transition for you on the high school level, which I think it was. Um, to me, scores sometimes are a dime a dozen. It's the other things that separate you from other great scorers, and
Yeah.
you were so far ahead of the curve. You were easy.
Well, but I'm telling you, I give you so much credit, and Dave Bennell too. He would want some credit if he was here, but but I give you so much credit for one to coaches out there that sometimes wonder if the time that they're investing in younger people, as fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth, whatever it is, high school kids, whether if it matters or not. I mean, the time that you chose to spend with me was just so special, and the impact, especially in toughness. I wouldn't have been able to survive at the colony without kind of that foundation that you helped build, but then definitely not in college. So I give you tons of credit, man.
That's kind of you, Matt, but you really need to give yourself the credit. I mean, that's really where it should go in your family.
And well, my
Interesting.
mom was tough. My mom was tough, but
Mom was
yeah.
definitely tough. We were talking about that as well. I'm sure she still is.
She doesn't think she was, but you and I know differently.
I have your back on that one.
Yeah.
But that's something you should be thankful for looking
Oh, no
back.
doubt.
When I grew up and where I grew up, it was a football town. I didn't have nearly the skill level that you had. I was much, much better at football and baseball. I probably could have done a lot more with those two sports, but my love was with basketball. But where I grew up, there really weren't resources to expand your game like there are today. And what was so interesting about you was I actually found someone, a younger version, of course, that had that passion for the game that I had. And there weren't that many people around Berwick that had that.
Right.
So I think we really connected there because we just had a love for the game. We just wanted to play and compete, and just it didn't matter where, when, find a gym, let's go work on our game and be better. And I was at the point in my life where the playing was phasing out, so the coaching, you could live kind of vicariously through others. And meeting you and your family was a game changer for me and special. And it was quite a journey for sure. It was an incredible experience, and I had fun watching you just turn into the amazing person and coach and teacher and everything else that you are, and dad. And for somebody a little bit older, that's neat.
Nice. The outdoor courts at down at Berwick High School. I don't know how many hours we spent down there, but just special times.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And kids don't even go outside and play anymore. They just want to play inside all the time. And I think you don't know what you're missing by playing outside.
That's right. That's the whole talk right there is just on the amount of structure that is around players today. They're structured weight room workouts, structured practices. Then they go to their structured skill workout, and then they go to their structured AU tournament over the weekend. Where is the not just Kill 31, but the pickup games, the what we would call at Faith, the laboratory, where you get to experiment and you get to try some things that you might not be good at. I think that is a part of the game that's fallen away for sure.
I had a group this year that all they wanted to do was compete and play. I mean, they totally absorbed the workout sessions, the weight room sessions, the shooting sessions, all the structure. They never asked for much. They were a wonderful group to be around, but they always wanted a little bit of time just for themselves to just play. If it was 15 minutes, they never pushed it. They're always like, Coach, let us play a little bit. And that was pretty neat to see, just how they enjoyed each other, and they enjoyed running up and down the floor without maybe that structure and coach on them and a whistle in his mouth and working. I would make a point to just keep score, keep score and let them have fun. And man, we had some fun practices this year. And I don't know if COVID had something to do with that, and the fact that there was a little bit of a return to normalcy, and they were just excited to be around each other. But you definitely need to give them time to just let them be 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids and play with you, play and run up and down.
With all your experience, because I know how competitive you are, probably one of the most competitive people I know, how much you hate to lose and love to win. how hard has that been for you as a coach to allow them to have fun? Because like one of my favorite quotes is that it's our job, but it's their game. And I know I've missed that mark at times.
Well, you coach long enough, losing is definitely something you have to, I don't know if you get used to it, but you have to learn how to navigate it. Um, with every class is different, every team is different. The majority of the time, there's nothing you can say to the kids they already feel as bad or worse than you do, and when they do, that's kind of when you have a good group. I was probably over the top competitive. It's interesting. I haven't spent a lot of time with you in the last 10, 15 years, and we've lived our lives. I'm a lot more laid back now than I used to be, a lot more laid back. I was a type A maniac, and that was an intense way to live. But it also, there's no question about it. It led to a lot of my success as a teacher and as a coach and in life. But now it's nice to be a little bit, well, not a little bit. It's nice to be kind of at a different spot and more laid back with that. And the losing doesn't eat me up as much. And I think maybe that makes me a better coach with them, because I probably always felt that they don't care about this as much as I do. They just don't get it like I do. It doesn't mean as much. And that's really not the case whatsoever. So, when it comes to losing, I think it's sometimes really important to just listen. And occasionally, of course, when you know that they weren't focused and they weren't ready to play and they didn't take things serious, they need to be held accountable for that. They already feel bad enough. I think a lot of it is just being a sounding board for them and getting their mind back in the right place for the next game and the next challenge, because most losses don't alter your goals for the year. They're usually still in front of you, all of them. So you may have a very painful loss to your number one rival, and you might have played terrible and you just wish you could take it back. But at the end of the day, and tomorrow when the sun comes up, you're still going to be in a position to learn from it, be better, and reach all of your goals. So losing is definitely something I used to probably bring home with me more often, and I'm sure it negatively impacted my personality and sleep and everything else. And you have to remember that it's high school basketball.
Yeah.
These kids are playing for their hometown team, and they're going to learn great lessons that are going to, hopefully impact their life when they get older. But don't make a mountain out of a mountain molehill, and just love them.
Yeah.
Love them first and foremost, and hug them and love them, and make sure they know, if they know that, they'll go down the alley with you every day of the week.
Yeah. I think you're always so good at that, is being tough and passionate, but then also letting me and, some of those other YMCA guys back in the day, letting us know just how much you did care. And you showed that a lot with your time too, and not just your words. So that was pretty unique about you.
Well, I appreciate it, Matt. I always say, as a dad and as a coach, it's kind of a joke, but there's a veil of truth to it. You try to screw them up the least you can. You want to have fun with them, push them. It's a fine line, because you do want to maximize everything, because you only get one shot with them, and you don't want them to have regrets when they get older. That's one of the things when I look back. I certainly wish I could have done things a lot differently, but I always feel like I gave my best effort and tried to execute. And really, at the end of the day, that's all you can ever ask somebody to do, is just give their best effort. And if you're getting that out of them, sometimes it's a 6-win season, sometimes it's a 30-win season, but that's the goal. Get the most out of them. Sometimes they don't know how good they can be. This team I had this year was probably my favorite team in all my years up here. We had been coming off 2 really rough years, COVID years, and not any talent years. We won, I think, 5 games in 6 games after 11 years of really tremendous success.
Yeah, that's different than the teams you've had. Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect this year. I knew I had talent to compete. Not that would necessarily translate to a lot of wins. And then we started off 10-0, and we had a fun season, and the kids overachieved, and it was just a really fun ride. Enjoyed it. It re-energized me after a couple really rough years.
I think that's a good goal for us, is to have a satisfying year. Because I talk to coaches a lot, and I always ask them, how was your season? and you can kind of tell real quick, if it was a bad one or if they had success and wins and felt good about it. But I rarely hear guys say, "Man, it was just like it was really satisfying." Like you kind of said, we weren't necessarily the most talented. We overachieved. I think you can be almost too far on the either side of that, where we weren't any good and you're frustrated the whole time. But we won a lot, but I really, didn't enjoy the process either. So that idea of, like you said, just enjoying the kids and the ride and hopefully helping them to overachieve, that's huge.
I think success is defined much differently by coaches as compared to maybe people in the community. Um, there's obviously a lot of things going on in the locker room and in the program that people outside of the program aren't privy to. And, they see the product on the court. But there have been years where we didn't necessarily win as many games as I thought maybe we could, but we overcame injury and illness, and they were a great group to be around in the locker room, and we just enjoyed each other. And in my opinion, it was a successful year, while the community's saying, well, you lost in districts again, or you lost in EPCs, or you were a 1 seed and couldn't get it done. And that of course is all fair game, but there's a lot more to it. And we didn't win anything this year. But every team that played us was scared to death to play us, which was really exciting. The really good teams, and we clipped a lot of them, and a lot of them clipped us. It was back and forth that way, but the journey was so much fun because I knew whatever happened, that when the clock ran out, there was nothing more I was going to ask of these kids, and that was, you don't get that all the time. You do not get that all the time, and you certainly don't get it from your best player to your 12th player. And we had that, which made it just, for me, it was pretty rare. And it was pretty fun. There's just so many variables that go into your year with your personalities, any more COVID restrictions, and everything else that goes along with the season, injuries and attitudes, and it just kind of all clicked. I think it's going to click again this year as well. And that has me even more excited because I think we have maybe more talent, and we'll see what happens.
Talent with that attitude that your guys had, that could be dangerous. This may be a silly question, but knowing you, that team that you mentioned this past year, that I could just see your personality really coming out more with a team like that, where they're overachieving. They have to be tough. They have to go in every night and battle, but there's a possibility they can do something. Would you rather have a group like that, or maybe a more talented team, but there's just so much struggle getting all of those guys to move in the right direction?
B can be fun if the struggle ends with, a chip, or, it ends with you reaching the goals that you had set for yourself. To me, it's all about maximizing the talent. So I think probably A would be a little bit more in the long run. And, this past season, I made a point. My kids are a little bit older now. I have a little bit more time on my hands, where when you're raising children and they're in sports themselves and they have a lot of things going on and you're taking them here and there, and it's harder to commit. Where now, with them being older, one in college and one working full time, I wanted to recommit more and spend more time with them. So basically a year ago, probably about today, we started going 3 days a week in the weight room and shooting, and I was there every moment. I have an incredible staff. I could leave my staff to do everything.
Yeah.
I would feel fine with it, but I wanted to, for me. And I wanted kind of what you said, Matt. You kind of nailed it. I wanted my DNA on this team a little bit more, because I was so fascinated with, man, just how good can we be? We played about 30 games over the summer as a team. We were probably 500. I don't get into wins and losses in the summer because it's summer and kids come and go and some aren't there. But I thought, if we get them in the gym and we coach the crap out of them, like I know we will, this could be a fun year. And man, next thing I know, we're 10-0, and I don't think a school boys program in our history has started 10-0. So that was fun. You know, reality set in because we got into our division the last 12 games. We ended up 6-6, and we qualified for our conference, and we qualified for districts, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was close with this group. This was a group I was really close with. I hadn't been that close with a group in a couple of years. I'm sure COVID had something to do with that. You know, the 2 years before that were really rough. So yeah, they definitely had a little chip on their shoulder when they played, and I'd like to think
you like the chip.
I like the underdog role.
Yeah.
I always liked being told you can't beat them. This team's better. No, that's if that was the case, we wouldn't play. So from that part, it was, man, we went down the alley a lot, and we had a lot of fun with each other.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game. It just reminds me of our adult league team that we had. I was a sophomore in high school, I think, playing with grown men and getting beat up all the time. But I felt like our team had a little bit of that idea of we didn't look like much, but we were going to come out and compete, and those were good times.
Those were great times for sure, and you were still the best player on the floor. It always amazed me, you know, who's Steve bringing? This little kid. I'm like, he'll be all right.
He'll be all right.
And then when you weren't on the floor, we were a mess. But yeah, and there's no doubt. I mean, when you have guys like Dave and Craig, and Mike on that team, you know, we all were kind of from the same background where you were going to have to beat us. You were going to have to earn it. We weren't going to ever walk on the floor and not be present. And if you underestimated us, good luck. It's fun.
So we play 30 to 40 games in our season, which is pretty long. How many do you play in your school season?
When I first moved up, it was 24 regular, and then you had your conference playoffs, your district playoffs, and your state playoffs, so you could get well into the 30s.
Okay.
I lowered it to 22 now, regular. So, you know, a good season, and you're probably around 30, but you guys definitely do play more games. And we can't do that up here with the weather.
That's true.
It's just not, we barely get the games in as is. I mean, we had a couple seasons up here where our first 2 or 3 games of the year were canceled because of weather. And then you have other winters where it's not an issue, but I'm always envious when I'm checking up on you and I see that, you know, you're like 15-2 and we're 4-1.
Yeah.
And you guys all started in October, you know.
That's right. We start early. It's always funny to me when you'll just get a kick out of this. They start canceling school here now, like a day or two in advance of possible weather. And I just keep saying, like, guys, let's just wait and see, because it could be 70 degrees, you know, or it could be freezing. And then they'll cancel it. So we can't have practice. We have to move our games. And sure enough, by noon on that day, the sun's out. The roads are dry. They just freak out down here. They don't know weather. They don't know it.
And it's not that far off up here either. There is a lot of early outs and closures that never should happen. But, you know, there are people a lot smarter than me making those decisions, I guess.
Did you ever say y'all when you lived down here? Did you allow that word to come out?
I don't know if my language ever converted too much, but I know when I moved back, I appreciated y'all and fixin' to and mighta oughta. Used to could was one of my favorites. I used to could do that. So even though I'm removed from my time down there, I still throw that out there with my kids, and they kind of chuckle. But I remember when I moved down there, the kids thought I spoke so prim and proper.
That's right.
You know, because I was a Yankee that way, and I always there was a lot of things I enjoyed about the South. The kids were super sweet and respectful and kind, and you know, just everyone in general. There was a civility there in the South that I've kind of always think I live my life by with people that I meet. It's how hard is it to be nice and how hard is it to be friendly? I say
Yeah.
that all the time. Uh, but no, I still think I talk like a Yankee.
I first few days at the colony, one of a kid that ended up being one of my really good friends, Ryan Coyle,
Yeah.
uh, asked me if I was really smart. And I looked at him, I said, "What? Not really. Why? You sound really smart."
Yeah.
There's something about that. But just so you know, and I hope you're proud of me, I've never said y'all just organically. I still say you guys. And so I'll catch myself with, I do sixth grade PE every morning. That's my main gig here. And I'll get the group. Hey, you guys come together. And the guys will come over. Ladies. Yeah, that means you too. So I still don't say it.
Yeah, you are what you are.
Yeah. My mom adapted it real quick, but yeah, that's not me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I never really made that adjustment. It wasn't personal. It's not that I don't like it at all, because now that I'm up here, I throw it out there, and I never really did down there. So it's kind of odd that I use it up here. But I know the principal there. I can't remember his name when I was there. I was talking to him the one day, just casually talking, and he threw out the mighta oughta. He's like, "Well, we might have ought to do this," and I'm like, just kind of stuck. I couldn't
That
process
doesn't sound right.
and then the old "used to coulds" came out, and fixing to, and
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna like it down here. These people are all right.
I asked about the games because even though you don't play that many during the school year, you play a ton, during the summer. That's something we don't do. Is so when you talk about those 30 games and then the 20 to 30 that you play, golly, you almost play 50 to 60 games in a season. I would imagine you really get to know your kids, your teams, and what they can and can't do.
It's interesting up here because where we live, we have a couple incredible summer tournaments. For years, the tournament was called the Stellar Tournament, and we have. I took you down there to Cedar Beach to play some basketball when you came up. But that place, I mean, it's completely packed, parking. There's thousands of people there, and they have an 64 team tournament over 3 days from teams all over. I mean, we played a team from France.
Oh, wow.
We played teams with NBA players and just all over the country. And that's probably, they look forward to being a part of programs so they can play in that as much as they do, during the season, because it's very, very unique to the Lehigh Valley, and teams from all around the country, they want to participate in it. So playing in the summer under the lights on a hot summer night and we've had some pretty good tournaments. We made it to the finals the one year, and we've made it to the Final Four. We made it to the finals a bunch of times, actually. It's a long, exhausting weekend, but what an incredible experience for these kids to play in front of the whole community. They bring the stands out, they bring the lights out. It's on TV. It's pretty amazing. So that's been something that I've definitely enjoyed coaching in the Lehigh Valley, is that summer aspect to it. With Summer League, we get some big crowds for Summer League, which we play outside, and then 2 really significant summer tournaments. All the best from Philly come up. Like I said, New York, Maryland, DC. I mean, you name it. The powerhouses show up, and we get to compete with them. And every now and then, we've clipped them a couple times. It's been pretty special.
I know that you're really big into culture, even before that buzzword was flying around there. And I was speaking to a coach at a local high school here, Birdville High School. He just retired after 38 years. And I asked him about his culture and what they do. And he's like, 15, 20 years ago, nobody asked about that. It's just how we showed up, who we are. And I would imagine that you have, and Dave has had great things to say about your teams, the way you coach, just how great you are. What is your culture at your school? How does it drive the performance of your program?
Well, it's kind of interesting because my first year here, the cupboard was bare. A long time ago, we were 6-16. And, we were fortunate enough that the next year we got to 500 and we qualified for districts. And, by our 4th year, we had won our conference championship. And we were just really blessed from my second year on to qualify for districts for 11 years. We went to states 5 out of 6 years. We played in a district championship, EPC, or conference championship. Like, a lot of good things were happening, and the culture just kind of got established. And, I've often looked back and wondered, like, why did that happen? And you just have to get them excited about what can be, first of all. When I came into the program, we weren't very good, but there was incredible talent coming. And I knew we were going to be really good pretty quickly, probably by our third year, which we were. And by our fourth, like I said, we were on the top of the mountain for a brief period of time. And I just emphasized to them, like, you have to have a vision as to what you're working for. Okay? I mean, it might not happen this year. Well, you're all sophomores playing varsity basketball. Keep that in mind, and then next year, they're going to have to drag us off the court. And if that doesn't work out, you still have another year. Like, focus on the big picture and not the moment. And once you start tasting success, the culture kind of takes care of itself, because they were a part of 6 and 16, and now they were a part of winning. Well, we have a basketball camp every summer in the community that I run, which gets the young kids excited. And then you always have the older kids working there. And I mean, they're just in awe of these older kids that they watched on Friday nights all winter. And they want to break their records, and they want to win the next championship, and they want to go to states, and they want to be the next player to get a scholarship. And the culture just kind of feeds itself, as long as you're continuing to stoke those flames, that here are the goals. Here's what the goals. So even when we have teams that maybe realistically you look at the roster and you probably know it's going to take some luck and smoke and mirrors and some other things, the goals are still the same. Every year our goals are to qualify for districts, to qualify for a conference, to qualify for states. And then along the way, if we can win a championship in any of those, that's just a given. So you got to give the community itself credit for that, because they're really connected with each other, and the boys understand the role models for the younger boys, and they spend time with them, and it just kind of follows from generation to generation. It's one of the things I absolutely love about Emmaus.
Yeah.
You don't get that in all communities.
No, it is special. I mean, I'm at a private school where these kids didn't grow up together. They're all over the place. And as special as I believe this is, we're always going to be missing that.
Well, I am a Berwick kid. I grew up in Berwick, and it was football.
But I wanted to be a Berwick Bulldog, though, from going to their camps. I can't remember the kid's name, but watching a varsity player walk dribbling between his legs, thinking it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, and mimicking that.
I wonder if it was Matt Heimbaugh is the name I'm thinking. I know. And you get that in certain communities, because they have a history of winning and a history of success. And you said they grow up together. I'm a public guy. I'm all about the publics. If I can win 2 games all season, I want to beat our rival Central Catholic.
Yeah.
They have lineage kids. I get it. But we're just a bunch of public kids from Emmaus that grew up together playing out here in the courts. And they live down the street from me, and let's go play and see what happens. I love that when we get to play charter schools, Catholic schools. We certainly go down to Philly and play all the big boys in Philly. And every now and then you beat them, and it's a good feeling. It makes it extra special for me personally.
So when you're trying to set that vision, especially for some of those younger kids, and you're right, like, just because you're selling it or setting it for that year, it may not happen at that year. It may happen in the future. I've just noticed, and maybe it's being in a bigger city or around here, but if kids or families don't feel like that vision is happening quick enough for them, they'll go. So how do you keep some of those younger players that are talented, but maybe they're not even physically ready yet, but their time will come? How do you keep them there while staying true to kind of yourself?
It's not basketball. Our program's bigger than basketball. The wins and the losses in the basketball it's obviously part of it, and it's great. But I want these kids to be so connected with each other and with the coaching staff that they don't want to play for anybody else. Uh, I've lost a couple kids in my 14 years here. There's one right now that stinks quite a bit. We would be a lot better if we had him, and it was what it was. But in my 14 years here, I've been incredibly blessed to have not really lost anyone. And the schools right around us, they haven't been quite as fortunate. They have lost significant players to the Catholic schools and the charter schools in the area. And it can be a trying, difficult thing because every good player I have that's in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, I know is getting the hard press. So I have to recruit my own kids. I mean, that's just the reality. You have to recruit your own kids. My AD that I had that hired me, Dennis Ramella, amazing. He always said that to me. He goes, "It's really sad, Steve, but you're going to have to recruit your own kids." And he actually came from Central Catholic, so he kind of knew what it was all about. And I always remembered that, and I always make a point to communicate with the parents and the kids and make the program special, make it something that they don't want to leave. And the few kids that did leave, they all came to me when they graduated and said that was a mistake. And you tell them that when they're leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have to do what's best for them and their family. And I don't begrudge these guys. I feel sad for these kids because these kids do just want to stay and play for their best friends they grew up with. But there's that nugget hanging there, the college scholarship, and you'll get more here, and who am I to begrudge a family making that decision? But as well as anyone, Matt, we spend so much time with these kids. Basketball is really low on the totem pole for just in general, everything that comes along with being part of a program.
Yeah. I can remember the reason I started doing this was during COVID. A girls coach from Rockwall emailed me. She wanted to talk about shooting. And I know you're shocked that nobody wants to talk to me about defense around here. They only want to talk to me about shooting and offense. But I'm good with that. And we're talking about some stuff. And then somehow we got into her culture at her school, an activity she does. She takes her teams to a cabin and they go through this whole talk. She shared everything with me. And I thought, like, that's brilliant. I would love to get to go to a cabin with the guys, but even just the talk that she has. And I thought there has to be, there's so many great coaches, not just in DFW, but all over the place that have amazing activities and things that we can draw from. And so that was a big motivation to start this. So that culture you just talked about, and the way that success breeds success. But what are some of the activities that you do in your community or with your team that you just think are special?
Well, you hit on it right there with the cabin. I've been taking my kids up to the lake house for years for the day. And I know you've been up there.
Yeah.
It's the best team bonding experience you can ever have. Again, when they graduate, they don't often talk about the games within the season. They talk about those summer tournaments and when we went to the Final Four and we played in the championship. And they talk about when coach had us all up to the cabin for the day and we went tubing all day from dawn till dusk. It's an exhausting day for me. I'm literally out there at like 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. driving these kids around on the boat. And the parents are up there having a good time. And it just takes the program to the next level because they realize that, Coach Yoder's, he's not just about basketball and we're a family. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. Another thing that I do every season is once our team is selected, I have them in my classroom for an hour or two. And we just, we gather around. I have a little Nerf basketball and I throw it to whomever and they can talk about whatever they want, ask whatever they want. They're the only ones that are able to talk. And that conversation goes in a gazillion different directions that you'd never expect it. And then we'll do a little fishbowl activity where we'll move the veteran kids in the middle and we'll keep the new kids out on the outside so they can lean on the older kids and, throw the ball to anybody in the middle and ask them a question, well, what's it like dealing with Coach Yoder every day? And, what's the most difficult thing about being in the program and what should I expect? And, we make it crystal clear at the beginning that, this stays in the room and whatever direction it goes. And I find that really eases their mind, especially the younger kids. I would assume there's an intimidation there. I have, being the head coach. I don't necessarily want it to be that way, but it's never going to go away. And that kind of alleviates a little bit of it. And there's a trust factor that's built. Those are two things that come to mind. I think anytime you can get away with them. I used to take them to team camps. We went to Princeton. That was a lot of fun. We went to Rutgers. That was a lot of fun. Within the season, I took them to Atlantic City to play in a tournament. We went out to Pittsburgh, New York. When my time is done here in the not so far off future, I hope my legacy is that, Coach Yoder, he was willing to go anywhere, play anyone, and do anything with these kids. Because, man, we've had some incredible experiences just traveling, and took them to Florida a couple of years ago. To me, that's what it's about.
These are some questions that I have every coach kind of look at and see what they would like to talk about. But some of these, I can't wait to ask you, just because I don't know. And you alluded to it, the last 10, 15 years, and it's my fault for being too busy down here or too self-absorbed. I don't know what it is, but just life and everything. What opportunities for learning or growth have you found recently, or who are you into? Who do you like to listen to or learn from?
I thought that was a really interesting question. I wrote down just a couple coaches' names that popped into my head right away. I gave this one a little bit extra thought because I was intrigued by it. I tend to gravitate to coaches who do or have two things. It's pretty simple for me personally. I absolutely love the tactical part of the game, the X's and O's, the adjustments. And, to me, there are a few coaches out there that just amaze me with that. I think when you look at the NCAA finals with Bill Self, I watched that game, and I watched Kansas a lot. And I picked them to win. I thought they had the most talent, and he's a great coach. And they were just such a mess in the first half. And I thought, there's no way this season is going to end with them putting another half
like that,
other performance. Like, that doesn't mean they're going to win. But what is he going to do? And I thought Carolina, who was really good, took the fight to the bully in the first half, and whatever Coach Self did at halftime to get them to reverse that and extend their D, and just the minor adjustments they made to get more touches in the paint, and whatever the case was, I'm fascinated by that part of the game. I love that. So Bill Self came to mind, but I loved Mike Young at Virginia Tech. I thought what he did in the ACC tournament was just really amazing, with probably not quite the talent that the Blue Bloods had. He did that at Wofford too. He was a really, really, really good coach that if you gave him mid-major level talent and you had a blue blood, you better be ready to play. One of my favorites is the guy down at Arkansas, Musselman.
Oh man.
Musselman. His energy.
Yeah.
He's like,
he's got the marker all over his face because he gets it on his hands, and then he does this, and he's covered in it.
And he has the energy of a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
And I watch him, and I'm just like, I always thought I'd be like that because I used to be like that. And I'm like, no, it would have killed me. So I just respect and admire that. But what he's doing down there, he had some really significant wins this year. And I know when they beat their last win, I don't know who it was they beat before they, I think, played Duke. He's like, we had a week to prepare because they had won the first weekend, and then they played somebody really significant in the next Thursday or Friday. And he's like, we just had time to prepare. And I thought, that's me. Like, give me talent. I mean, you need talent, of course, Matt, but just give me a few days where I can game plan and figure you out. We're going to be right there.
Yeah.
I love that part of the game. And I really like it when I don't necessarily have the better team, because then you feel like you really accomplished something. So people like that. Brad Stevens is the Mount Rushmore of X's and O's and utilizing talent, putting people in the right position. So from the tactical point, and then the other part, the second thing I look for in coaches that I gravitate to are just the ones that have incredible relationships with their kids. I was watching Texas Tech this year, and I had texted you. I just loved everything about the way they played, and they were grown men on that floor.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
So disciplined,
Yeah.
and they just loved their coach. And it was his first year there. The coach had left to go to Texas, and what was going to happen with Tech? No one would begrudge him if he came in and didn't have a good year. And here he is, playing Duke in the Elite Eight.
And he's about the exact opposite of Musselman too, in my opinion, as far as their mannerisms and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And I loved his vibe.
Yeah.
I just, and my vibe is more like that now, if you can actually believe it, and much more laid back and less animated. And he just loved the kids, and they knew that. And because of that, they were willing to just do whatever he said, just out of love for each other. Coach K obviously has that and always had that. Jay Wright at Villanova.
Yeah.
Pat Summit at Tennessee. She was always someone that I admired, 20 years ago, when she just had that incredible run with Tennessee. I mean, those girls, she saved their lives in some regards. She had such an impact on them. John Wood and Dean Smith. Life's about relationships, Matt, and I don't know if I'm particularly good at them, but
I think the fact that you and I are on this call, I mean, I think that's proof of it. Just the impact that you had on me as a young person. Just because our lives kind of did go different directions after college, after I left college, that doesn't negate the impact, early on. So I would definitely put you on that list of somebody that knows how to connect with players for sure.
Well, I've been teaching for 28 years. I'd like to think that I didn't spend 4 different decades in the classroom teaching and then sucked at relationships.
You probably wouldn't have lasted that long if you sucked at relationships.
Yeah, and I teach. I've taught high school seniors now for 28 years, and I love them. They're awesome, and I think the majority of them feel the same way back at me. And I just want to give them a good experience their senior year in class. And then really the same thing is with basketball. I want to win. I really want to win. But I know that it's bigger than that. There's just so much more. I would say there can be so much more in the right program. There are some programs that aren't like that, and I don't begrudge that either. But I want to have a program that's just focuses on the relationships with the kids.
Yeah. You mentioned, I noticed you left one name off, and you didn't put Shaka on there.
I just, I always just thought there was a fraudulent vibe to him. And I guess it's funny, when he just got hired at Marquette and lost by 30 in March Madness, I thought of you. But
he had a great season, though. They had some big wins.
Yeah, look, he's a really good coach. I mean, he's clearly accomplished more than I ever will. He's probably forgotten more about basketball than I will ever know. I just didn't think he was ready. For Texas. I just didn't, and you see it all the time. You see these coaches get hot in the tournament. They go to the Elite Eight, and then they get their pick of the job, and the majority of them struggle. Yeah. I don't want them to struggle, but Texas is big boy, big time. Big 12 is, as you know,
brutal.
More than I do. It just wasn't like I was rooting against them.
No, I know that. I just
kind of the time when I was starting to calm down a little bit, I think. And I was watching him, and he's like, he's 35 years old, and he's running, thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah, diving before games on the floor, and you're like, come on, what is this?
You can't sustain that.
That's right.
Yeah. It's not sustainable when you play 35 games a year. And I worried about that with him, but he certainly had a good coaching career, and Marquette is one of the most traditional programs in the country, and I hope he does well up there.
It's always hard to see these coaches that seem to have a really nice fit. I wonder that about myself. Like, do I belong at a bigger school, or is this just a really nice fit and a niche for me? I mean, there's times where the style of play, the freedom, the offensive philosophies that we have, that I think, golly, with some bigger, badder dudes, me and Dave used to talk about them. Then my assistant Dallas, now we talk about, our zone that we run, the length, that if we could have length in it, and the pressure we put out of it, and then with this running and gunning philosophy. But then you see guys like Shaka, like at VCU, he had something special. The guy that just went to Seton Hall from St. Peter, he had lightning in a bottle, and then they go on, and are they ever able to get that again? So it's all, man, it's hard to know what's the right move to make at the right time. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I want to ask you this. I struggle because, you talked about these coaches that are great at making in-game adjustments. And like you said, you give a guy a week. I think that's an area where I struggle. I'm really confident in teaching, especially offensively, a style of play that players can really become their best selves in and maximize their skill. But I am a believer almost all the way through to this is who we are. We will not deviate from this. And most of the time we have success, but there are a few times where if you're playing bigger, better, faster, and I don't change or make any adjustments. But I don't know. I don't know how to turn that off.
Don't. It's working for you. You're having success. Why turn it off? You and I are, I noticed that pretty much immediately when I started following you coaching, that you had your system and you owned it and you had a blast developing it, and it's been super successful, and there's absolutely no reason to change it. But I thought it was interesting because that's not me. I adjust to the talent that I have. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite parts of coaching because I've had success with teams that let's get after it and run up and down the floor. I mean, I had twins for 4 years. In fact, David Caparese just graduated from Stephen F. Austin.
Nice.
He played his last year this year was with SFA, and now he's looking to play overseas. And we could run up and down the floor with almost anybody in state. We ended up number 4 in the state, but I can tell you the 3 teams ahead of us, I don't know if I would have rolled the ball out there and said, let's run up and down the floor with you, because they might have been a little bit better. So I probably would have, I don't want to take their wheels off and slow them down, but I would have been very careful about that. So I've had teams I've slowed it down with. I've definitely had teams that couldn't score, and we just had to focus on defense, which the games are super ugly and everybody goes nuts, but they're so much fun to coach and kids love them. Whatever the strengths of the team are, I'm going to try to develop it in that manner where you have your system, and it's fascinating for me to watch, because you're scoring 100 points a game and you're having such great success. But, it's just 2 different philosophies, and why can't they both work?
Yeah. There's just times I'll have my assistant coach. I really appreciate, his name's Dallas. You would love him. A younger guy and hoping to get a head job pretty soon. But we're both very much aligned. And I wonder sometimes, and Dave was really good about supporting me in kind of the direction. And he really loved when we went to this zone, it fit our personnel more, but we could still, normally when I used to hear zone, I cringe, and because I think it's a lazy person's defense, and but the way that we do it, I can guarantee you, you won't see something like it very much throughout the year. So I like the idea of a team really having to prepare for us more, and the fact that we only do one thing defensively and one thing offensively. We just get to work on being better ourselves all year long. So I see some value in that. But then there's this kind of other voice, and sometimes it's another assistant coach we have here that will say, well, you got to have something else ready, or you got to have some. And then that's where I don't know if it's stubbornness or just, I don't know why I don't believe that. And I don't know. I mean, because who I've played for, Coach T was more of a grinder, and he let us my senior year do whatever we want because we were pretty good. But then Bliss was a guy like you, more we were changing all the time, depending on who we played or the team we had or whatever. I don't know. I just I wonder sometimes if we wouldn't be better off with more adjustments instead of just this, because coaches will ask me, hey, running what you run and this 5-out race and pace offense, what if you played them? And I'll just say, what if? Like we're going to do that, and we're going to make it work. I don't know what's right.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you was kind of what you're hitting on. It's interesting to me because you do play the style that I certainly have no clue about coaching in particular. And you played, like I said, I thought of the same thing. You played for Bliss. He's a Bobby Knight guy.
We ran flex. That'll show you how creative we were.
You played for Tommy, and he certainly would let you guys loose and run up and down the floor at times. But there was structure, there was discipline. What got you into this mindset and this culture of Loyola Marymount kind of philosophy? Where did that come from?
Yeah, thank you. You're the only person that's ever asked me that. No,
really?
No, I'm
the only one that's known you that long.
That's the thing. It really bugs me, Coach, when I get especially before 3 years ago, I would just get these questions of, you need to talk to somebody about defense. Do you guys play defense? And really, I took it personally, like they're insinuating that I don't know anything about it. But if they knew me, like in college, that was my thing. Like I was a defensive player in college more than an offensive player out of necessity. The game was just too fast and I couldn't keep up with it. And then Coach T and you both taught me good defensive principles. So the idea that always kind of bugged me. But I understand when there's a shift in what defense could do for us, rather than like it was more of a means to an end rather than like what we were trying to focus on. Like the goal is to get the ball back as quickly as possible.
It doesn't surprise me that this is the way you coach, because you were at that age when the game was definitely opening up. I mean, you have more and more 7-footers that can shoot threes. You have Kevin Garnett who can take you off the bounce. You have like big guys played facing the basket. They didn't slow you down. You could get up and down the floor more. They could spread the floor more because they could shoot. And if they could dribble at all, if you had a big that could dribble, I mean, that was a game. So I get why you do it. I'm just wondering did you watch something and say, this is the style I want to coach? Did you run into a coach that impacted you? Or did you just look at where you were at Faith and say, I'm going to have this type of kid coming in for a long time. And these are the types of kids we're going to have. And this is a system and a league particularly maybe where this could be successful. I've often wondered where you got that from.
Okay. So started out at Naaman Forest with a guy named Jeff Clarkson. And I don't know, did you ever cross paths with him? Because he was at the Colony for 1 year after I left, Jeff Clarkson. But
name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, he coached for Coach Thomas 1 year, and that but he hired me for my first job, and so but I was a volunteer varsity assistant for him. He's at Prestonwood Christian now, and he's big time. He's a really good friend of mine. But that year we had a lot of football players, and we were trying to run some actions that I knew I could run. Cerebrally, I could make this work. I could see things, but our guys, it was like if I was knocking the beat to a song, they didn't know what the song was, but I knew it in my head. It's kind of that thing. Yep. So then the next year I was only part-time. I went full-time at McKinney High School for Wes Watson. We inherited he had a really good team with a good point guard. We were running Kansas ball screen motion. And again, I loved it. I could see the greatness in it, but what we see as coaches and what we can get our players to see is different. We had a new team the next year, almost a brand new starting five. And coach really wanted to get into some Bobby Knight style motion with 2 guards up and some action off the floor. And I used to jump into practice at that point and play and show the guys things. And I remember just loving it. Like I could make reads and I could set my teammates up. I could see everything. But we were 8-21. We were so frustrated with what we were doing, and we had dabbled a little bit with dribble drive motion, 4 out 1 in. At the end of that year, I just really said, Coach, we've got a bunch of little guys coming back. We graduated that group, a bunch of little guys, and they can kind of shoot. Like, what if we really look at this 4 out 1 in dribble drive? We open the floor, we allow our guys to shoot some more. And he wanted to press. He'd always wanted to press. And here we have this little athletic team. And so we kind of blended those two. He became the defensive coordinator. I became the offensive. And we hit the ground running with these guys. We decided to, instead of just, you've heard coaches say, like, I wish we had better shooters, or I'd play like you if we had better shooters. Well, we decided to make them. And so we shot just a ton. 50% of our practice turned into shooting. And then we did 25% of the pressing and then dribble drive. And we went 25-10. But I mean, we hit 287 threes that year. And we thought that was the most that was possible, like we had ever seen before. And that took us on a journey, me and him, of getting deeper into dribble drive and all this stuff. Well, then I get the faith job, and this is the style that I really like. But that's a 6A public school with athletes. This is faith. And I didn't really know the guys well, but I came in our first meeting and I said, 3 things. We're going to shoot 70 or more shots a game. And so because they had averaged 50 a game the year before, which was a lot to them. And their eyes opened up. And I said, we're going to shoot 30 to 43s in a game. And then I said, we're going to press the whole time. And before our first game, I was so sick because I thought to myself, like, I don't know if this kind of kid can do this thing. And luckily they hit 375 that year, and we averaged 82 a game. But the problem is like, you and I have kind of talked about it all throughout this talk, is knowing your why and why you're coaching and what the purpose is. And I kind of lost that for 2 or 3 years. I wanted to just here's the thing. So I ran the Grinnell system for 1 year, or tried to. And the problem with that style of play, balls to the wall, speed, press just to get the ball back. I mean, we were forcing 30 turnovers a game, and scoring over 100 points, but we'd lose, 115 to 111 or something like that. And I lost sight of, one, winning is the goal. We were going so fast that it really wasn't basketball. But when you see them have the fun and the freedom in that style, I mean, I've never done crack, but I would imagine it's like that. This extreme, but there's purity to it. That when they're all 15 guys are playing, they're all shooting threes, they're all getting in the game every couple minutes, they're all cheering for each other. Like, how do you go back to regular basketball, which is the best players play? You control everything that you can. And so we had a couple bad years of where it was more system than anything else. And then kind of the big shift was getting back to what can we do as a team to put the best group out there and to win, but then to find value in everybody. But to move from 4 out, 1 in to 5 out, where you take that dunker spot guy and you move him up to what we call the stretch, which is 3-point line extended. Oh, the floor just opened up, and you kind of ask, where does it come from? This is the style of play that I would have dreamt of playing myself as a creative basketball player, where it's just a blank canvas, and every possession down, fellas, you can make whatever you want out of it within concepts that are really smart. Like, it's smart to attack double gaps instead of single gaps. It's smart to get to the ball to the paint because that's where all the good things happen. It's smart to shoot the first best shot because who knows if you're going to get another best shot. And so that's been the journey the last 3 or 4 years, really finding the sweet spot where we've had some different teams. They've all seemed to find their own way within it, but it's not this. There are these books back here that I'll probably never read again, because it took me to that point with speed that you just really can't go, because one, I don't think you'll win a lot doing it, and you'll lose your players. But now we're kind of in that sweet spot. And I watched teams run a lot of plays. I watched it in the NCAA tournament, and I watched it in high school tournament, like the UIL state tournament. And I just wish if coaches could see within concepts and some ease, some structure, the reads and plays that players could find, I think they'd really enjoy it.
It's interesting because our styles are different. So, basically to simplify it, you're taking an approach to master a general style of play, where I probably have never mastered a style of play, because every 3-4 years I alter it a little bit based on the talent that I have. And, normally you're going to have that talent for 2 years, junior, senior year. If they're really good, maybe sophomore. When I had the twins, that was really exciting because I had them for 4 years. They started varsity as freshmen, and yes, they were that good. We went to states that year. So with them, I got to I spent a lot of time with them in 6th and 7th grade trying to figure out what they're coming. All right, I gotta, they're coming.
You got to have something that will get them excited and put them in the best place to become the players they could become.
Master their skills, and they had talent around them too.
Yeah.
We were really good for 4 years, just simple as that. And they were the reason why. So I put in a whole new offense and a whole new system with a lot of high screening rules for David. And one went on to beat our all-time leading scorer in school history. The other one scored 1,000 points, just finished as an All-American in Division III. And, it was fun, but then they graduated. Now I have a 6'9" and a 6'8" kid, and the 6'9" kid was 1,000 score. So we're going to beat teams 50 to 48, and we're going to dump the ball inside every possession to him because he's that good.
Yeah.
And he's going to block everything on the other end, and we're not going to run up and down the floor unless we get steals and go, like, completely different. David just came up, the twin who scored the 1,800. He just came back up from Texas, and he asked, Coach, I need you to work on my shot. I'm a mess. You always made me feel confident. I'm like, yep. So we reserved the gym and we got it done. And he just kind of laughed. He's like, Coach, we had so much fun. He goes, you let us run up and down the floor. And I'm looking at him like, well, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were so, we were on ESPN because of you. You guys were special. And I knew to get out of the way. Just get out of the way with some structure.
Yeah.
And let the two best players maybe, in the state. It's interesting how
that's the part
of
the
different ways. And you kept talking read and react. And I'm like, I've been going to the read and react because of the group I just had this year. And we certainly didn't master it, but man, we got really good at it. And we had a 4-out version and a 5-out version, and it was just read and react, simple, really simple. If this happens, you had like 3 options.
Yeah. And
just let them master that. Just let them master those simple things and be basketball. But, Matt, it was kind of like the way I played with Dave down there with our adult team. There was structure. I mean, I was going to get the ball in certain situations. And if I didn't, we were going to be mad that I didn't. Mike was going to get the ball. Dave was going to take over games in certain situations, and we all knew it, and we fed him. And, there were times where we just needed you to just calm us down. And like, we all understood it. It wasn't anything that had to be coached. It was a fun way to play. I can imagine how much that fun that is for you once they figure out that here are the basic rules. Now go play 100 miles an hour.
Now I just need you to go faster. That's it. Just go faster and shoot quicker. The longer we have the ball, the higher the chance of a turnover. But
I'm really worried about that though with you, because you play so many games, and do you have the depth, and do you have the health, and do you, it's
32-minute games.
Did you
32.
find that like maybe you came out strong and then you physically or mentally hit and drop, or like tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the zone helps a little bit in that. Not
Yeah.
that we're active. Our top guards, golly, the amount of, if you put paint on the bottom of their feet, their footsteps are all over the place. Our bottom back guys do have some time. Our middle man that makes the whole thing work, he's exhausted too. So there's a little bit of fun of, realistically getting 7, 8, 9 in. But even when we were pressing and playing 15 guys and doing stuff, I never felt like we got our opponents tired enough. That because the 32-minute high school game, it's too short. Like you just don't really. They even
Too short
sprinting
for
like
you.
we sprint, huh?
Too short for you. Yeah.
Well,
Not necessarily your opponent.
yeah. Well, they loved it too. We played a team that had 6 guys one time, and we beat them 113 to 104. And I asked the coach, I was like, man, you guys never got tired. He's like, yeah, well, we run. Like, even though I feel like we're in better shape than our opponents most of the time, I just think that's where I had to get away from that style of thinking of more possessions just for possession's sake. We want to play fast because the main offensive idea is to play against a retreating, disorganized defense. I'll take that all day. Even out of a free throw, we can get that, because if we get it out and pitch it and we're in the corners already, most likely you're going to be on your heels, and we can most of the time beat that. But if I'm constantly walking the ball up against a group of 5 that's organized, well coached,
Yeah.
that's going to be hard. And so that was that idea. Here's another thing it's had to do is we shift our practices. We still lift 3 times a week during the season to keep ourselves strong. We only go for about an hour 15, hour 30 after school, but we also do skill work during the day. So, and once the season starts and the offensive concepts are in, it's more of just how can I pour gasoline on it? How can I get them more confident, understanding shot selection? Oh, it's day 1 shot selection, day 45 shot selection, because you got to keep harping on that, or else a free-flowing system where I'm truly not in control, it'll fall apart really quick if guys are taking shots that are basically saying to everybody else, this is the best we can get. And that me monster will take over. So it's more of that type of management and getting them out of their own head most of the time, because kids don't like to miss, but the more you take, the more you make. And biggest influences is Paul Westhead, Arsenault from Grinnell, and then just some of these Popovich, actually, his 0.5 second rule. Every time you catch it, can I shoot it? No. Can a teammate shoot it? No. If not, I'm attacking the world, the paint. Once you simplify the game like that, I've just been amazed at how we can take different types of players and fit them into that. But if I had 6'9" like you that couldn't shoot and demanded, like, we would be better if they got the ball on the block, I'd have to change some things, but we don't have those at Faith.
You'll get one.
We have two 6'5" right now, but one of them can really shoot it, and I'm making them be guards.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, do you guys have the shot clock, right?
No, that's a
They're talking about maybe getting it this year, but
what do you think of that? The purist in you doesn't want it.
Yeah, I think you know the answer. There's an art to being able to control tempo.
Yeah.
I don't. We have a couple teams in our league that are notorious for playing stall ball.
Yeah.
That's what we always called it. Northampton, although they scored a lot this year, but traditionally Whitehall. Now the whole valley's definitely moving towards more up and down play. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes, Matt, you just have the right team that can do that, and it's a culture. We talked about culture at the beginning of this. That stall ball and playing that style is a cultural thing. You can't just bring a team in and be good at it right away.
No.
So I value, I guess I'd say I value it,
Yeah.
but I'd much rather coach a game that was, 75 to 70.
Yeah.
I think I like the openness, the athleticism. When you look at like the NBA, for example, in the 80s, had a flow and, Magic and guys like that. It was a beautiful.
See, I still see that flow today. I know it's different, but I still see it today. It is more what actions can we run to get the matchups we want, but then it still is players playing in space.
And that's led by Steph Curry and Golden State and Steve Kerr. And I think you see it with Phoenix.
Phoenix is great.
There are some teams out there. I think Popovich, when that year he beat the Heat with LeBron, I mean, that was probably the best NBA team I ever watched. That ball just moved around, boom, 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 boom. I prefer that style.
Yeah.
But I do value teams that can make you pay in another way. And when you bring the shot clock in, especially if you have a team that wouldn't otherwise compete.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Villanova beating Georgetown. That never happens with a shot clock. They shot 9 shots the whole half and made 7 or whatever it was. As a basketball fan and just a love of the game, that is a pretty cool thing to watch.
Yeah.
But generally, I would much rather be part of more up and down play.
I think the better teams will win more than because when you're talking about possessions, as the better team, you want more. As the lesser team, you want less. And that from my senior year in college, that's why we'd run around at half court and waste time until 8 seconds left on the shot clock to try to take less possessions away or more possessions away from Kansas. But personally, I don't really care. Some people down here are very passionate.
I look at what Steve Kerr does at Golden State, and to me, that is basketball at its perfection, at its apex, especially offensive basketball. They're never standing; they're all moving. Get on it, Matt. They're moving with a purpose to potentially score. They're not moving to say, "Well, we're going to get Steph the ball with 5 seconds left, and he's going to do it," which that does happen. But it's not designed that way. It's designed that we are going to cut so hard, we're going to move, and we're going to screen. And one of these 5 guys is going to get a beautiful, wonderful shot or an assist. You could watch it all night. I think Phoenix with Chris Paul and Devin Booker have that vibe. Certainly, I think you have it now that you got Porzingis out of Dallas. There's more flow with Luka. I mean, to me, that is what
I think it'll force coaches to really evaluate offensively what they're teaching. And because you're going to have a more attacking mindset, possibly multiple people that can do similar things, like the idea of having a point guard. Like we've been positionless for years now, where we don't use number systems. We just have spots that you have to get to. The beauty of that is you can play anywhere, and we have multiple guys bringing the ball up the floor or racing up the floor, but you're not going to be able to wait and move for hopefully the defense to make a mistake and to find that great shot. You're going to have concepts that quickly get you a look that you're comfortable taking. And players are one thing I'm excited about is players are not going to be able to anymore if we do get a shot clock, turn down a good look. Like I can't stand watching. You're not even looking at the rim. Like everybody's going to have the ability to shoot and to attack if there's a shot clock.
You and I are on the same page there. It's coming in Pennsylvania, maybe very well this year, if not next year, and we'll adapt to it. But I don't think it's necessary. Again, I'm with you. I think it's just your better teams are going to be even more dominant because they're going to have guys that can just break you down at the end of the shot clock where, give us a fighting chance when, we go down and we play Roman Catholic in Philly or, we play Newman Goretti or whoever it is we're playing, we have more of a chance if there's no shot clock.
Yeah.
We're playing Lower Marion where Kobe's gym is, we beat them.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a shot clock, thank God.
Yeah. One rule I've always had is with my guys, I tell them I'm not going to tell you to stop until there's 2 minutes left in the fourth. So off of a make or a miss, if the ball's live, it's them what we call flow. They're flowing. They're making plays and reading each other. I don't call anything, or I never tell them to slow down. And I think I've been pretty consistent with that for a long time. But then this year, we overachieved big time, and we had 2 1,000 point scorers, or the guys that will be 1,000 point scorers, sitting on the bench because with injuries most of the year. One guy never played one play, and so there was this idea in my head where trust is huge. I think anyway in basketball, but playing this style, I'd really have to trust that they can find the best shot for us. But late in the game, my 2-minute rule of I won't stop you. And usually at that point, we would, if we're up 8 or less, we're going to pull the ball out and get in our wide set because we're all guards. We can all shoot free throws and we can all handle it. You're going to have to come out and play us. I started doing that at 2:30, at 3 minutes. And it was like our last 10 games. I think we did it almost every game where with 3 minutes, we go to our wide set and we could just milk it and milk it. So here I'm saying I don't mind it. It will mess with my end of game. Like we're going to have to continue to play and execute. And here's a question, will our aggressiveness in our shot taking, because we will take some threes that I think a majority of people would say those are bad shots, but not in our scale or the way we think. And that might hurt us at times.
I love the evolution of the game. At the time you tend to complain about how the game is changing.
I think it's beautiful.
I think it's pretty mean. I think it keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
And I try to embrace it. I think it's made me a better coach, but I kind of know what I was going to hit on though. There's no doubt as I get older, less is more. I look at a team like UCLA and I watch Cronin, and he micromanages everything. Like it's almost like there's 6 players. Well, he is on the floor half the time. He's screaming everything, and they're always looking over at him, and it's just like they can't do anything on their own at all. And he's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging him from that manner. It just that I don't want to do that, and I know I used to. When I first started coaching at Emmaus, I know I micromanaged too much. It's all part of the evolution. But I'm actually really enjoying focusing on giving them the primary things that they need. These 4 things, whatever the case may be, you have to do every single time, or we're never going to be successful. Now go do those 4, and then the rest of it, figure it out. And watching them grow and evolve that way, it's funny because they'll look over and they'll be like, what do you want to call? And I'll be like, call something. There's an in-house plan. They're like, what do you want to run? I'm like, I want to run whatever you run. Call somebody. I'm not always going to be around. Kind of mentality, even though, hopefully I will be there. It's like, you guys, what do you think I would want? And then you start hearing them call the plays you were just getting ready to call.
Yeah.
And that's when you don't need to have your mouth open all the time, that they figured it out. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
To see 17 and 18-year-old kids think like you and understand the game on your level.
Really start to get it. Yeah. It's like I think one of the culture attitudes that we have at Faith is I know that, and they know too, that there's other ways to play. We just happen to love the way that we play.
Right.
And we love the way that we think. And so when you start to see, one of my favorite culture building activities is halftimes, because I don't know where there's this book. I actually had this guy on, Brian McCormick. He wrote a book. It's an ebook. You should read it. You'll love it. It's an ebook called Fake Fundamentals. And it's about 50 pages long. It's 10 things that majority of coaches do that make no sense. With even like how we close out, things like 3-man weave, all these ideas that when I never thought about it until I read this little book. And I like reading things like that challenge. I think it's the Pistol Pete in me. You knew that he was a big influence in me from a skills part, but also the way him and his dad viewed the game. And so that, I think there's a part of that as far as influences go. Pistol Pete.
One that cracks me up is don't ever, pass when you're in the air. Don't jump in the air and then pass. It's like, well, you're looking at guys like Magic Johnson and all the greats. That's all they did, and they were really good at it.
See,
So it's like, you're good at it. You're good at it.
Yeah,
it's
the
like,
teaching,
don't fade away, shoot.
Okay, the teaching there
Jeremy.
is wrong.
Yeah.
It's not don't ever jump the pass. It's don't ever jump hoping that you'll find something. That taking hope out of the majority. Don't shoot hoping that it'll go in. Don't close out hoping you keep them in front. You take that hope out of it and you give them principles.
Right.
We love jump passes when there's a purpose. When we get to a gap and we know we have two shooters and we see them choose wrong and we find a guy. So yeah, you're right on the money with that. One of the things it's weird that I went that direction, but one of the things that I don't like that we've always done is we go to the locker room at halftime. We only get 8 minutes. I want them to shoot before we start the second half. So we take 30 to 45 seconds to walk in. I usually stand there and talk with my assistant for another minute. By the time I get in there, I'm rushed and I really don't have a lot to say. And then by the time we get back out, there's 30 seconds left on the clock. So 2 years ago, at a tournament, our locker room was far away from the bench, and the buzzer sounds like, "Hey guys, just circle up. You guys start there. We'll talk. We'll come in." And I was sitting there talking with my assistant. I looked over, and the players are in a circle sitting, and I just said, "Shh, shh, shh, shh." And we just started listening to them because I think it's because they weren't in a locker room where they're supposed to be quiet. They were sitting there, but they were just giving each other reminders and reinforcing our rules and concepts and things to the point where when I came into the circle, I just said, "Guys, I heard it. That's great. Let's go shoot." And it's probably been now one time last year, I wanted to throw something. So we went in the locker room, but that's only once. We don't do that. We stay. And I love listening to them every game, talk each other off of, like, if one guy's 0 for 5 from 3 in the first half, hearing guys say, "Hey, don't worry about it. You're about to go off," like reinforcing the way that we think, or we're attacking too many single gaps, guys. Let's make those one mores, then cut and get a double gap going. And then I just get to swoop in and sit and go, "Hey, I think you're right on the money." And then maybe a few more things that I see. Like, that's been a huge shift for us, but that ownership that you talked about. Yep.
Really, really, really important. I don't think I could do 8 minutes. We only get 10, and it's sometimes tough, but 8 minutes, oh my gosh. That's a good idea. Do that. Yeah. It's like these college games where they get 20-minute halves.
And 8 timeouts. Like, honestly,
oh my gosh, cardio means nothing in college anymore.
That's right. So many breaks. I would only play 6.
Loyola Marymount. You can't do it in college anymore because there's so many breaks. The game has changed, and the reviews, and it's just, I'm a purist, I guess, and the high school is furthest away from that, and still has that purity to it, I guess, that I'll always admire and respect.
Well, one thing I get to do on this podcast is a speed round, and this is really special because I feel like I know you. Speed round is going to be quick questions that first thing that pops in your head. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Anything with Reese's in it. Reese's peanut butter cups, chocolate, peanut butter, vanilla combo.
All right. For high school shot clock or no shot clock, how do you really feel?
I am against it. If we get it, I need it to be at least 35 or 40 seconds.
Okay. Texting or talking?
I do a lot of both as a teacher, and I enjoy both. Talking.
Yeah. I've had people say it depends on who it is, and I think that's a pretty good answer. Yeah. If it's my mom, I'm not texting because, golly, that'll just got to get her on the phone.
Texting's fun though too.
Yeah. To get in touch with players is the easier way.
Oh my gosh, game changer.
Favorite holiday?
Uh, Probably Thanksgiving, but
Yeah.
Christmas is great too. But I like Thanksgiving.
Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Wow, you didn't even hesitate with that.
I don't ever want things to be about me.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I
I
like
don't
that. I
you know,
like
people
that.
can judge me. This is one of the nice things, Matt. Let me tell you about getting older. Is you just there's a peace. You kind of get a peace with yourself that you've lived the right way and done things the right way and screwed up a million things. But you try to do. I've always tried to do the best I could by the people in my life, and
When did you feel like you got that?
45,
Yeah.
5 years ago. 5 years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe you can get there too. Who knows?
Uh, I'm in a sweet
Yeah,
spot.
maybe you're there. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know. I
I'm in
didn't
a
think that way. I mean, maybe you're there. My
yeah,
point is, it's a nice place to be.
yeah,
If people don't like me or have a problem with me, it's a them problem. Like,
yeah,
I feel like, how hard is it to be nice?
yeah.
That was nice living in the South that way. I think I got that from my time in Texas, to be honest. Thank you, Texans. No, honestly, there was just a civility every day. My students were so sweet and respectful. When you go to Walmart and, hey, Shug, how you doing today? And I grew up in the North where everybody was flipping you the bird and miserable and angry. And um, I think that part of the culture of the South I absorbed
Yeah,
completely. And I think it stayed with me when I came back up here because, I like to just have fun with people and relax and be invisible.
yeah, I like that. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Well, come on now. I'm an 80s kid.
Does
It does not get better than
that get
the
better?
80s. Being a teenager in the 80s was special.
Yeah. Favorite place to travel besides the lake house?
Well, I enjoy the beach. I love to read, and I love to read on the beach. So that was the first thing that
Nice.
popped in mind. South, warm weather in general.
Yeah. Favorite? Oh, man, I don't want to lead you too much here. Favorite music, because there's a few songs or CDs that are just burned in my brain from being in your
Hootie and the
car.
Blowfish,
That's
right?
right. And then Van Halen, those
Or Van Halen.
two.
I was an 80s kid.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because I have like a love-hate affair with my Alexa. It's a running joke in my family because I'm always yelling at my Alexa, but I have literally like 2,000 songs
Yeah.
on. It just depends on the mood. I love everything. When my kids walk in my classroom every day, I have music on the smart board of it, probably an 80s video plan, but my favorite music, well, the 60s is by far my favorite decade. I love everything about 60s music. It had everything.
Nice. Two more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
I don't really remember drinking a full cup of coffee in my life, but I do
Wow.
drink hot tea almost every day at school. So
Okay.
one big cup of hot tea in the morning gets me awake.
There you go.
So hot tea, but it's funny when I'm not in school, I don't drink it. So just 185, 190 days at school.
Last one. Godfather or Star Wars?
Oh, Godfather.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean,
Godfather, Goodfellas,
yeah.
Casino, Sopranos. I can't get enough of those types of stories. They're amazing.
Well, Coach, I just took up about an hour and 45 minutes of your time, but it was just such a blast for me to get to really talk hoops with you in depth like this. But then, I don't know, just in some way, just thank you for being such a huge influence on my life, but also for just how great of a person you are and how great of a coach you are. This was a blast for me.
I miss you and I love you, and I wish we would have done more of this in my time away, but I'm glad we did it now, and I'd love to do it again on any level.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
maybe to have a couple of your kids and a couple of my kids, and maybe just do this and and maybe just sit down and talk. I think that'd be pretty cool too. But I'm so incredibly proud of you, Matt. Steph is incredibly proud of you as well. And we feel truly blessed that we were able to have a small part in your development. And look at where you're at now. It's just my hat's off to you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.